What we're going to look at today is we're going to talk about refining your edit. And by refining, we're going to, maybe we may want to customize the interface a little bit. I want to talk about that to make it work better for you. Maybe use some markers so you can know where to put things. We're going to do different types of edits, lift edit and extract edits. We're going to learn some modifications we can do. There's something called a roll edit that you would do between edit points to adjust the timing of when a cut happens. And we'll also look at ripple edits and slipping and sliding, all terms which are jargon that you don't understand now, but hopefully you will understand by the end, and something called J&L cuts, which is really one of the most powerful types of edits that you can use, and you see it in television all the time. And then what if you wanted to replace a shot without overwriting it, what a replace edit would be. So that's the idea of what we're going to do to kind of bring your show to the next level. And let's just hop right in. And what I've done is I've slugged in this interview. I've just focused the interview on his travel. I didn't want to spend the time about when he was a kid. Just kind of a promo thing that he can use to say, oh, how exciting is it to go on these tours? So I put it in, I cut to the different cameras to give us a little bit of variety, but I wasn't really selective about being really precise on that out point or that in point. So you'll hear overlapping audio or maybe even entire chunks of audio that I want to, of video that I want to remove. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with just generally trimming and all the different ways you can trim the end or the beginning of a clip. It's just like if you were in a Word document and you wanted to lop off the last sentence, or you wanted to add a new sentence at the beginning when you're telling a story. That's all we're doing with our trimming. So I'm going to play, and as I play this, we'll go along and we'll make some decisions, and we'll talk about why we're making those decisions, and then we'll move this edit forward. So we still want to keep the opening, so I'll just position my playhead, hit the space bar. I've seen a lot of your work, real pretty stuff. I've seen a lot of your work, real pretty stuff. So obviously I have some redundancy there, and I can either just kind of get the feel for the rhythm when I do that. So if I wanted to trim off the head, there's a lot of different ways to do that. So let me go ahead and zoom in here. So normally you have your selection tool, which is the V key. Think of it as the arrow. Okay, that's your selection tool. That's pretty standard in all Adobe applications, that the V key is like your default, your ready position. Okay, so if for some reason you start moving things and the cursor's not working, it's probably because maybe you hit another keyboard shortcut by accident and you're no longer seeing that selection tool. But as the default, when I put that arrow over an edit point, do you see how it changes to a little red bracket? That's a trim edit tool. And I can grab the edge of a clip and pull it and make it shorter and remove that chunk. All I did was basically I sliced it off. And again, there's 5 or 6 ways you can achieve the same results. And you're going to decide what works best for you. I'm going to show you some basics and then also some more advanced techniques that you might like because it saves you a few steps. Instead of 5 steps, it's 2 steps. But basic trimming is whenever you're in the regular selection tool and you move to the edge of a clip, and I'm going to zoom in just even a little tighter, depending on which way that's pointing, that's the part of the clip that you're trimming. So if I wanted to, I could make this longer too. I could make this shorter. So it's a trim tool that allows me to remove part of the clip, and I can be very precise with it. Another way that I could trim this, I'm going to go ahead and hit undo, is I could razor blade this, basically cut the clip in half and just delete the front half. The net effect is going to be the same. Again, it's your style. Now you can do this by switching to their blade tool, and we have a whole slew of tools here that you can work with. And there's a keyboard shortcut for all of them. If you forget the keyboard shortcuts, the beautiful thing about the engineers at Adobe, if you hover your mouse over it, it will tell you what that tool is and what the keyboard shortcut is. So in this case, I want to cut our razor blade. This is the razor tool, but you're cutting, so C. They're very intuitive on how they choose these keyboard shortcuts. So if I hit the C key, do you see how that turns now to a razor blade? And wherever I put that razor blade, it's going to cut. It doesn't necessarily want to cut where the playhead is, but I can snap it to the playhead. So if I cut it, and let me go ahead and switch back V key to my selection tool, you now see there's an edit point here. And I can select this clip and do whatever I want with it. I can delete it. I can relocate it if I wanted to. Now, if I delete the clip, and I'm just going to use the delete key, I want to just throw in again, because people have different styles. Maybe you don't remember what the key is to do something. Delete's pretty easy. But sometimes it's like, I think I know what I want to do, and I want to do it to this specific location. Try right-clicking or control-click. You'll get a drop-down menu that might even tell you what you want to do. And you can see there's definitely some options. There is something called a ripple delete, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. But I could go ahead, I could cut that out. If I hit cut, it's gone. So if you don't remember the keyboard shortcut, or you don't necessarily look at the drop-down menus, just try right-clicking. It'll a lot of times help you a lot. But if I select that and hit delete, it removes the clip, but it doesn't change the position of anything else in my timeline. Okay? A lot of times you don't want things to shift because it would throw off timing. If I did want to close that space after the fact, I can select it again and once again hit delete. So it closes the space because I selected the empty area. We saw we could also do that with the trim, and then I could, again, select that empty space. So that's a delete or a cut. You saw there was something in the drop-down menu called a ripple delete. Okay? It does exactly what you think it should. It deletes it and then ripples everything to close the space all in one step. So I could select ripple delete. Boom. One step. I'm going to undo this again. You can also use a keyboard shortcut. And they vary from Windows to Macs, and they vary from full keyboards to partial keyboards. It's a little crazy. But if I have that selected, oh, I had the wrong thing selected. There we go. Boom. And this is where I, having all these shortcuts in my head, it's Option or Option delete on a Mac. But I'm going to show you another trick to say, I don't remember all these shortcuts. I want to know a shortcut. And this is something I like to do. If I'm doing something 15, 20 times in a row, I should figure out what the shortcut is for that. And as a matter of fact, I keep a pad of paper, and it's like, and I write it down. It's like, I'm doing this over and over again, this insert edit thing. What is the keyboard shortcut? And then I'll know to look it up and try to remember it. Don't try to sit there and remember all the keyboard shortcuts, because only remember the ones you need. So the beautiful thing is that there are two places to find all the keyboard shortcuts. One is in the Help menu. If you go to the Help menu and you click on Keyboard and you're hooked to the internet, it will take you to the web page. And I believe I am live. And this will show you all the keyboard shortcuts. You can print this out for both the Windows and the Mac side. So there we go. Default keyboard shortcuts, Windows, Mac. I want to find out what ripple delete is. I can go here and I can say ripple. Let's see, find that. I didn't search the page right. See, I can edit beautifully, but trying to use a web browser. Here we go, ripple delete. So it's shift delete on a Mac, shift forward delete, which Mac users don't know about what a forward delete is. I use both, by the way. To me, it's a machine that confuses me in either way. So shift forward delete will remove that element and close the space. But the lesson here is not what the shortcut is. It's how to find the other shortcuts. So if you just go to that drop-down, shortcuts, it will give you this printed out. It's great, or just search it at the time. If you're not connected to the web, you can, let me just make sure that we're inside of Premiere. You can go under Keyboard Shortcuts. And on a Windows machine, it should be under File at the bottom. Okay? On a Mac, it's underneath Premiere Pro. Keyboard Shortcuts, it brings up this dialog box, which allows you to not only find them, but also to modify or create your own shortcuts for shortcuts that don't exist. And there's a lot of great little things that they've hidden in there that they haven't had a shortcut for. But if I want to just find something like, oh, I don't remember how to remove an in point, I type in, and I can look down and I can scroll through, and these are all the things that would have in. And under my sequence, we have, let's see, it should be mark in. There we go. Mark in is I, and so I want to remove that. Try out. When in doubt, jump to another solution. There we go. Option O, clear out. So if I typed in clear in. So I could learn what these things are. So it's very useful to go to the keyboard shortcuts and just type in what you want and see if there's a shortcut. And we'll look later on in the customizing towards the end of the course about modifying some things. And as we go through, I may add a keyboard shortcut here or there.